Hey, I'm back with yet another review. This one is the Voxelab Proxima. Voxelab, you say, what the hell is Voxelab? This is another just like fake startup company. Can we trust it? There won't be customer support. This is by FLASHFORGE. So it is by one of the bigger manufacturers. I guess they just wanted to come out with a different, under a different name, started, a different brand or trade name for it. But it's, my extra light just went out. Hopefully that, it was on a battery. Hopefully that won't affect the video. Anyway, so Voxelab is by a famous maker. It's not this unknown company. Again, crappy plastic lid, which maybe I should stop saying crappy plastic lid since everyone's using it on every printer these days, basically. Let's start off. They have tape around the glass, which is good. You can see the USB ports on the side, which is nice. Nice, stable Z. I mean, all the machines I see these days have nice, stable Z. Ball joint. And this is interesting. This is something I haven't seen yet. So this build plate is angled, but it's a bevel, it's a curve. The whole thing is just a curve. There's no sharp angle. Not sure if that really should make a difference either way, but it looks kind of cool, for whatever that's worth. Ball joints, people know, are not my favorite type of joint. They're not bad. Elegoo uses them. And I kind of like the way this one looks in terms of how it's going to go in. Well, this one almost feels like it came leveled from the factory, actually. I just want to put it in there, and you know what? It's like tight to the plate already. So, all right, I like that system. Doesn't seem bad. I don't want to force it in case it needs to go up before it's leveled. But interesting build plate. The other thing I do like is that I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's a set of grooves so that the vat will fit in perfectly. And then it's got kind of little like hook things that go in, and then the screws just fit into that. So that's kind of neat that it fits in perfectly. You can't misplace the vat. Not that misplacing the vat hopefully isn't a big problem for a lot of people. Although I can't remember what printer it was on. I actually, when I was pushing it in once, on one of them that had like the little screws in the back, I actually got the vat somehow up over the screw and I put the vat in too far. And when the build plate came down, I heard this horrible grinding sound. It was the build plate grinding into the side of the vat. So maybe I do need the vat ridges. Anyway, it's a nice touch. This is actually, again, I'm not opening up the insides, look, but from the outside, I like what they did with the construction. It looks like pretty slick for whatever that's worth. I even like on the side how they screwed in the side panels. It looks very high tech. I mean, what's more important, of course, Z-rod stability, which I'm pretty sure you're not getting much more stable in this, which again, I haven't seen a machine recently that I reviewed, to be honest, that didn't have a really stable Z-rod. So I think all the manufacturers have that on lockdown, which is great. It's something we need. So what I'm gonna do is I will have a thin piece of paper and I will test the light source to see if we can see if there's any, for me now on this new generation of monoscreens, it's a monoscreen. For me, the new generation of monoscreens, what's going to be a differentiating factor for the machines, because they're all going to be capable of basically the same resolution. If they're like this is 2K small screen. We know the highest resolution we can get right now is the Sonic Mini 4K because it's 4K on a small screen. But in terms of all the 2K printers that I'm going to review, which I'm sure there'll be a bunch, what's going to differentiate them is going to be price, which I'm sure they'll all be close anyway in the end. So what's really going to be is quality components. And for me, the most important component that we're talking about is the light source. So we want to see if there's any gridding or any hot spots in that light source, because we know on some of the old Elegoo machines, it caused a lot of failures for people because there were some areas where light was really weak and some where it was really strong. So if you happen to have a part printing or support printing, a key support, especially in an area where it's weak in terms of light, you can easily get fails that you can't really explain. It turns out it's the light source. So as best I can show you guys, I'm going to be testing light sources on all my reviews for these machines as best I can, just by putting a piece of paper there and eyeballing it and seeing, what we can see. So I don't want to waste too much more time. It just came with standard stuff, gloves, power supply, spatula, mask, funnels, instructions, you know, just normal stuff. Tape is good. Like I said, grid is good. Build plate looks fine. Z-axis looks fine. So we know what's most important to me. We got to get it testing, right? We got to get some prints going, and we have to see what kind of accuracy this 2K printer renders. We know what it should do, and I have things to compare it to. So I'll be back with some prints, some high-res photos, and we'll talk about it a little more. All right, thanks. Hey, I'm back with my Voxelab's review and Anycubic Mono. No, that's done. Voxelab and Voxelab, okay. So this Voxelab printer, which Voxelab is formware. So again, I think I said it earlier in the review. I'm going to repeat it because it's been a few days. Formware, Formlabs made Voxelab. So it's just their offshoot brand. So this is we're going to call it a budget 2K printer. It printed really, really nicely, which I would expect. It's a 2K monoscreen printer. So again, same resolution as your old 2K screens, but a little better because it's a 2K monoscreen. Monoscreens are more accurate when they print. Plus I'm using a higher resolution, more greater accuracy, greater detail resin, which is Epax hard, which is, now I'm convinced, the best resin I've tested, not necessarily for durability, but for what it gives you in terms of detail. And I'm all about the detail because I handle my minis with care. I should drop this after I said that, but no. I handle my minis with care, so for me, how good it prints is paramount. So this printer prints every bit as good as the Anycubic Mono, which if I hold the prints right next to each other, you'll see high-res photos at the end, of course. Hold them right next to each other. If I shuffle them a little bit, I can't tell which came off which printer, which makes sense. Same resolution. But it means this Formlabs one printed great. The Tortle the same way, printed perfectly. It's a good printer. I mean, you know, I don't remember, I didn't test a Formlabs printer on the old LCD screen technology, so I don't know how theirs was, or even if they made one. I'm sure, I guess they did, I just never ran across it. I have to jump in here because when I recorded this video, for some reason, my brain was frozen on the word Formlabs. This Voxelab is an offshoot of FLASHFORGE. FLASHFORGE, as most people know, is a major player in manufacturing 3D printers. And you'll see in this video, please excuse me, it drives me crazy watching it. I said Formlabs instead of FLASHFORGE in like 5 or 6 different places. So I will post little corrections when I do it, just a little graphics, but I had to, it was so bad as I watched the video that I was thinking of just reshooting the whole thing, but unfortunately I'm too pressed for time. So FLASHFORGE, I apologize that I call you Formlabs throughout this video. Just total brain fart, guys. So please excuse me, don't hold it against me. Total just goof on my part. I don't know what wires got crossed in my brain, but enjoy the video. So, you know, given that they're a big company with big resources, I would expect their entry to be, you know, a quality entry into the field, and it is. I mean, it's the machine is good. Like I said, it prints the way it's supposed to. But I'm going to say what I said in my Anycubic review also, and for those who've watched, I'm sorry if I'm, you know, if it's sounding repetitious or I'm beating a dead horse, but Frozen Sonic Mini, you know, leapfrogged everybody by putting out the Sonic Mini 4K. And as good as this machine is, and like excellent print, seems like an excellent machine. Durability I can't attest to, of course, but what's going to make you buy a 2K screen over a Sonic Mini 4K? This has a bigger build volume. So again, if the Z height limiting on the Sonic Mini 4K is like the only real negative on it right now. So if you say, well, I need the extra 20 millimeters. This one actually might be 25. I'll double check. I think this one's 25 millimeters extra on the Z actually, which is a lot. I agree. It can be significant. If you're printing bigger size figures, that 25 millimeters could matter to you. But again, it's lower resolution than the Sonic Mini 4K. So it is what it is. Now, I have to double check the price on this as I'm making the video because I can't remember off the top of my head, so I'll float it somewhere. But the only thing that's going to make, aside from that Z height, which again could be important to some people, it's not, honestly, it's not that important to me, but to some people I can understand it is, that without the Z height difference, the only thing that's going to differentiate these, because they're lower resolution, is a lower price. So I'm hoping that Formlabs is being smart and pricing this at a price point where you actually do have to think, well, Sonic Mini retail price $330, retail price on this is X. Is the savings, is that X savings worth losing the extra resolution? And is that X price, giving you the extra Z height, is that worth it also? I can recommend the machine in terms of just like how does it print, how does it operate, how did it function for me. Leveling was very easy. It's got a ball joint socket, but different than the Elegoo Mars one. It's almost like the ball socket, at least the design, it looks inverted from the Mars one. Maybe that's not even the right word. I need Goobertown to help me since, well, he's a PhD chemist, not an engineer, but he might be a PhD engineer for all I know. Brett, shout out, he's an awesome guy, and turns out he's smarter than most of us, including me with his PhD in chemistry. Anyone who doesn't know, getting a PhD in chemistry, no dummies get that, let me tell you. So shout out to Brent. But the ball joint that they have, you guys know I always say it, and I'm going to say it again. Ball joint is not my favorite one. I feel like the chance of a ball joint wiggling on you, if you don't tighten it enough, and I'm always afraid to like over tighten because you don't want to strip the screws and then you can't get them out. So the ball joint feels more prone to movement when you're taking your prints off than the 4-screw system, which to me, I don't think I've ever maybe even moved them. I have it on like 6 or 7 different printers now. Once you lock those in, man, even without stripping the screws, it's locked in place. But like I said, I've never had trouble with the ball joint, but I know other people have. So if you use a system like this, like the ball joint, you just really have to make sure you've tightened it enough that it's not going to move. And if your prints start failing at all, that's the first thing you check always on a ball joint system, is check the ball joint. But aside from the ball joint, which I don't love, the machine is good. The machine seems very solid, well constructed from what I can tell. The light source, this one's intriguing to me. So I've now done that light source test on my Epax E10, the Anycubic Mono, the Epax X1K, and this Voxelab. So you're gonna see it floating in my head and then you're gonna see it up close, but I'll just tell you. The Voxelab light distribution, it was literally like perfect. Like I didn't even see one minor hot or cold spot on it, which was, to me, was shocking. I wasn't expecting this machine, and I should pull up, I'm gonna show you the marketing material. Let me put that next to me somewhere. I thought the diagram was hilarious. Like sometimes you guys know I like to show marketing material because sometimes it is kind of humorous. So, and one of the things they were touting was their uniform light distribution. And so instead of like the parallel grid, like if you open up a lot of your machines these days, you see like 12 lights or 16 lights, I don't ever count, a bunch of lights all shooting straight up. But that does result in like a grid effect. Normally, if you have just one light and then you angle it out, we all know from our past generation, the edges are super weak. The light doesn't seem to be uniform there. It gets weaker as you get toward the edges, which also seems to make sense. They're further from the light source. No matter what reflector you have, it's going to be that way. So to my amazement, you said, like I said, you see the screen test. This actually had uniform light everywhere the screen was lit up. I would actually, their marketing material, they should have drawn more arrows or something because they really did a good job on that. Then the odd thing was, even though the light is very uniformly distributed, I also found it needed a slightly longer cure time than the Anycubic Mono screen and longer than my Epax X1K Mono screen. So the light source, and I didn't open it up, and maybe an engineer will do this and tell me how they diffuse the light to make it balance. Maybe whatever they did to diffuse it also weakened it a little bit because like I said, I have to cure a little bit longer. Not that that's the end of the world or anything. I'm just observing this and throwing it out there for you guys to digest however you want to digest that. But the light was really even, like beautiful. I mean, that was impressive. I was impressed at how they did the light. But like I said, on the other hand, counterpoint, comes through a tiny little bit weaker. So, but you know, in the end result, because I'm not dissecting the machine, like I said, my end result is I look at the prints, and the prints came out great. And these Vox prints, if I put them next to my Anycubic prints, you know, quite honestly, if I shuffle these right now, I can't really tell the difference. So, they both did a great job. I mean, they're like these are both. You'll see these high res photos, and if you saw my Anycubic, you saw those photos. These things print like, these are crisp as hell. I mean, these are awesome. But let me get the Anycubics out of the way. But like I said, when it comes to recommending this, Formlab, sorry, like, it's not that I don't want to recommend your machine, because it is good. If it wasn't for the Sonic Mini 4K, I'd be doing it. Now I have to say, if you can get this a lot cheaper than the Sonic Mini 4K, then you might want to pick one up. Like, I feel bad for all these companies. I'm doing reviews of their machines, and I have to be honest, none of them can beat the Sonic Mini 4K. They just can't. The only reason to get this over the Sonic Mini 4K right now, in all honesty, there's only two reasons. One, the price for this is way cheaper, enough that you say, I don't need a little extra resolution. Like some people, look, I love my raw prints to look as good as possible. Some people could say to me, well, Greg, that's not really that logical. You're not a good enough painter to take advantage of it. And I would agree with you, actually. Maybe for someone who's not a great painter like me, you know, if you're you know, a James Wapple or an Alexandra, said it in, I don't know how to say her last name, Craft World Minis, she's awesome. Or like, even like Chris Spots, you know, or, you know, Mad Max Minis. If you're one of these painters who could take advantage of this extra detail, then yeah. If you're a painter like my level, I wouldn't be insulted if someone said to me, you don't need a 4K printer, Greg, because you don't paint good enough. But on the other hand, I could also say, the details printing out sharper and clearer actually make it easier for a bad painter like me to pick up on them and paint them a little better. So I guess I'm not sure which way that sword cuts. But the truth of the matter is, the Sonic Mini 4K prints the best minis right now. It just does. So if you don't need the extra Z height, this has, I think, 20 millimeters of extra Z height, which is a lot. So people who are printing bigger figures for whatever reason, let's say you're a painter and you want all your figures to be, you know, bigger, or you're doing busts which are taller. If you're doing anything quote unquote tall off the build plate, that's the only reason you wouldn't get a Sonic Mini 4K right now that I can see. Excuse me. This printer though, $330 for the Sonic Mini 4K right now. I'm going to float the price of this. So Formlabs, if you're watching my review, let me just say this. You got leapfrogged. Same thing I said about the Anycubic Mono. You got leapfrogged by Frozen. I think they took everyone by surprise coming out with the 4K screen. If you want to compete, if you want to sell these machines, these 2K machines, I do think you need to lower your price enough to where people say, well, do I need 4K resolution over the 2K resolution, given I'm saving $100 or whatever. So, you know, to me, if unfortunately for Formlabs, sorry, if this is close in price to the Sonic Mini 4K, unless the Z height thing's an issue, you get the Sonic Mini 4K. If this is $100 cheaper, now you have a real decision, because $100 is a lot of money. You're talking, if you can get this for say $230 and the Sonic Mini's $330, you know, $100. You know, it's 50% on the $200 price, or it's a third less from the Sonic Mini price, depending which way you want to look at it. But it becomes, I think you pick up on this machine if it's a significant savings over the Sonic Mini 4K, or if you need the greater Z height. Otherwise, it's hard for me to tell you to pick this up over a Sonic Mini 4K. I think I wouldn't be being very honest if I said that. And this is a good machine though. It just got leapfrogged. And exact same thing I said about the Anycubic, you know, and now the ePax X1K. You know, we're expecting a wave of small 2K printers and larger 4K printers, and all of a sudden Sonic came out with a small 4K printer. So I do think, you know, these other companies are going to have to make some rapid adjustments to compete and put out 4K screens on these printers as well. But the other reason I like reviewing this machine, and even Anycubic, you know, like when I see how well they can do it with a 2K screen, That means if they do come out with a 4K screen version soon, I'm pretty confident they're going to come out with a good machine. Because this, you know, the way their light source works, that the evenness of the light, even distribution of the light, really well done. So that gives me good hope if they come out with a 4K machine, you know, they can compete. So that's it for my review. I have the high-res photos coming up. Solid machine. If you're a Formlabs fan, so you say, you know, if I could, I'd like to stick with their brand. By all means, don't hesitate. Get this machine. You will not be disappointed at all, I don't think. So that's it. So I hope you liked the review. My Patreon is for testing and reviews. I use the money from my Patreon to buy these machines to test when they're not given to me, because some companies, because I do give an honest review, I think some companies are scared to send me machines, so I go out and buy their machines. And I buy resins to test also for you guys. So if you want to support the resin test and the printer test, please join my Patreon. Any little bit helps. That's it. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, please subscribe. Please check out my other reviews. In a couple months when all these printers are out, I will be doing a roundup review and give you my recommendation of what's the best of the best. And that's it. Thanks and happy 3D printing. I don't think this video really captures, unfortunately, just how perfectly distributed the light was. Hopefully you can see. And aside from the full screen test, which I was running, see here it looks a little grainy, but that's just because of the paper that's on top. They also have a grid style test, which coming up you'll see in a second, which I really liked. But trust me, although that looks a little like grainy, that's because of the paper. The light source was really dead even. It was amazing. And there you can see their grid test. Again, some of it's out of focus, so it looks like it's not the same everywhere, but it really is. It was really nice. And here we have the gunslinger. As always on this figure, we look at the teeth on the guns, very clear. The strings on the pouch and the stitching on the pouch came out nice. The belt buckle on the shoe, always one to look for, came out pretty good. And then the one I always really focus on is the belt buckle at his waist. And you see that came out like pretty crystal clear, I'd say. So very high detail, very good accuracy. I would hope that anyone would be happy, you know, getting this print. And then let's go take a look at the turtle. And the turtle, what we look at here is the chains, which came out nice. There are small little scales carved into the shoulder and the knee. And oh, by the way, what we're not, and also I like to look at the eye, because the eye is tiny, and you know, it's easy to lose that eye kind of. Now, what we're not going to hold against this print is I somehow got dust all over it without realizing before I took my photo. So you can see it's got little white specks. So I know it's hard not to, but don't hold the dust against the printer. You can see like the detail, even like the wood grain on the 3-part staff. Lots of really good details here. Very nice print, very solid machine. And I just say overall, again, if I had dusted this off and done a little better job gluing his hands on without, you know, getting a little glue on the sides like I did, this is a really good print. So the printer definitely delivers on what it's supposed to do, as I would expect. So FLASHFORGE, not Formlabs, but FLASHFORGE, good job, good printer, and depending on price and availability for people, I'd say this is another real option, another real player entering the field. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks, and happy 3D printing.